distance professor. So just a quick little speaking. Studied Southeastern State. She received her bachelor's degree in communication from the University of Madrid, and she holds a master's degree from the University of Oregon, PhD from the university. Her style of teaching is the result of her training as a cultural accounting and the Asian spheres, and her identity. She has taught Spanish in America, the United Kingdom, and Japan, so she built her classes as a transnational. Students learn to move on their sense of curiosity. The objective is to facilitate the knowledge of Spanish outside of academia and empower students with a English ready to become citizens. Dr. Martin-Santo, a doctor, studies in cultural context between and Asian Pacific 21st century class. She is currently working on a manuscript on one that has her Pacific. She explores the intersection between travel writing, history, and rhetoric, the kingdom, and content, projected and built.
Yeah. Central? Okay, it has been a long way because okay, I came to America 20 years ago. I started as a high school teacher in Nebraska. There's a program of exchange. Maybe some students may be interested in it because they bring Spanish teachers to many states in America and they send graduates to graduates and bachelors to Spain. So you can go to Spain and work in high schools there. You can teach English there. Interesting. A ministerial thing. It's official. So anyway, I came to Nebraska. I was 3 years there, and I wanted to stay, but because of the it was a act, no child left behind. So because my degree is in journalism in media, I cannot get the full professional license for teaching. So they told me you got to go to grad school. So I say, okay, I'm going to grad school. So I took a map. I'm okay. I'm from one area very close to the sea, and being in the center of America is anything but close to the sea. So instead of looking for graduate programs for Spanish, I took a map and I say, okay, this is stated by the sea, by the sea, by the sea, by the sea. So I ended in Oregon. I took my master's degree at University of Oregon. In actually, that picture that you see there is me holding the pumpkin. This is my first week in Oregon. So I took the master's there, and then I had to decide: do I go back to high school or do I keep going to grad school? And I say, oh, I have seen America, I have seen the center, I have seen the west. Let's see the east. So I went to Boston University for the PhD, and I didn't know what to study. Professors told me, okay, you are Spanish, you're a woman, study Spanish woman. And I say, no, I'm going to study something different. So I got my PhD from Boston University for 2 years for Providence College, which is close by. I have good relationships with them. And then because I needed my green card, I went to teach to a very small liberal arts college in Virginia. It's called Hamden Sydney, and it's only for boys, only for men, okay, not boys, men. So I was happy there, but it was very small, non-diverse. So I say I'm going to find a diverse place where I can, you know, at least teach to women. So I find the advertise for working here, and I apply, and here we are.
How did you decide PhD?
I didn't decide it. I mean, it's like I went for a grad school for getting my license for become a teacher. And when I was in grad school, I realized that I mean, you need certain personalities for being in high school or for being in college, university, and my personality is more college, university. So I say, okay, if I want to, if I want to stay in America, a master is not going to be enough because it's not as easy of getting documents. So I say, okay, PhD. And I like it. I mean, I love it, but mostly because I wanted to stay in America and I needed papers. I mean, I have been moving because of papers.
I do think it's feel a bit difficult. You had to plan out, moving to a brand new city and a brand new location with different people. And I imagine that it got a little bit hard in one of those like trips. Well, I guess not one trip, one relocation. So, what were some of the methods that you use to like kind of deal with those issues in the way, if you had any issues like that?
Mostly the issues where I am adapting to the environment, and honestly, adapting to Nebraska was not easy at all because I mean, Nebraskan culture is quite different from Connecticut culture. I didn't establish deep relationship with people there. There was a group of Spanish teachers, and I most of my free time was with them. Now, when I went to Oregon, the culture was absolutely different. One of the things that made me realize that I was in a different place with different mentality and way of thinking, way of living was when I saw a stop sign, that you have to stop. And it was the Iran, Iran, Iran or Iraq, I don't remember. I think it's Iraq. Yeah. So the sign was a stop sign for traffic, and underneath was war. So stop war. It was like, okay, so it was the year when Obama won. So try not to talk about politics because I'm not a citizen, but for people like me, it was like a breath of air, like a way of breathing. Oregon can be a difficult state, but University of Oregon is very diverse, very focused, extremely focused on Latino, serving Latino Hispanic people. They do great work. We can, if you are interested, check what they are doing because it's amazing. They are working a lot. So I was the only Spaniard there, but I adapted to the mentality of the people. Now, when I went to Boston, it was quite similar. Open-minded people, diverse, etc. So as long as I'm with people who think socialisms, respecting, okay, I want to say respecting transgender people, respecting diverse, LGBTQ, etc., I'm fine. Can relate to that. So it's just a way of finding points of connection between people. If something works, yeah, if it doesn't, I move. Happily, it's working here. So. It's very different. I left Spain when I was 30. So it was 20 years. I'm 50 now. 50. So now, growing up in Spain, it was interesting because when I was born, the dictator was still alive. The dictatorship was still working, and nobody wanted to come to Spain. It was not possible. I mean, you couldn't immigrate to Spain. So it was a very non-diverse society. I remember the first time I saw a black person. It was in university when I was 20 years. It was incredible. Now, in the 80s, it became to diversify. and now it's becoming diversified. It's diversifying. It's not diversity. It's diversified. So going from that point in everyone is the same to a diverse society has been, I mean, it has been my life growing up and Spanish society growing up. So it's been very interesting. Sometimes I regret I left Spain because I could be doing something about it. But I had to think about myself as well. So it has been interesting.
How did your family react to your decision to move?
Oh, they say okay.
They're
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, they were absolutely okay. Yeah, they say, is what you like to do? Let's go. I mean, they weren't that happy when I went to. It depends. So the first time I moved, not in America. The first time I moved was to London. So I worked for Starbucks and Cafe Nero. I paid for college for English lessons with that money. So I was working as it's a barista. So my dad said, we paid you college and it's much cheaper in Spain, but they say, we paid you college and now you're a barista. And I said, yeah, dad, but I cannot speak English. I'm not going anywhere if I can't speak English. So that's why. So next time I went to Nebraska. And then they were happy because I was going to be a teacher. It's like, okay. Yeah. And my dad died, but he loved America. He's so he had he had that movie idea of America that is very diverse and there are no problems here. My mom is the opposite. My mom thinks every American person has a gun in the pocket. So absolutely opposite. But they saw that I am happy here and thriving, so they say, okay, let's go wherever you want to go.
Certainly very important that your parents were really supportive. Because previously, like in previous talk with Tuesdays, um, that's one of the issues that a lot of people face, like not having someone to rely on. So that they can, it's always like believing in them. So like the fact that your parents were always believing is certainly something that I imagine was a source of relief for your journey.
It's specifically when I came to America, one thing my mom says is like, what I think, Mom, I'm going to Nebraska. And she says, okay, let me sit down because I need to analyze this. So when I go, I say, yes, I'm going to Nebraska. I have been accepted in the program. She said, okay, money is not a problem, which is like, phew.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm the most privileged person I know. Regarding to immigration, I don't know anyone more privileged than me because it's not only emotional support, money. So yeah, yeah, I work with that.
And I'm like, independent.
One thing is that I talk to my mom every day. I told me that some people doesn't like new technologies, but new technologies allow me to tell my mom every day. I'm fine. And after I went to because I went to London for the second time when I left Nebraska. When I left Nebraska, I left saying I'm not coming back to this country because Nebraska. But I went for teaching Spanish in Japan for a while, and then I moved to London. In London, the second time I was in London, I was teaching Spanish. So my little sister is my cousin sister. We call it primos hermanos.
Yeah.
First cousin, which is like she's like my sister. So she came to London with me, and now she's working. She's an administrator in London School of Design. So they are happy that she came after me. So yeah, everything is working.
What is like in Japan?
It was I have been in Japan. It was my second time. I have been 3 times. The first one was just a homestay. The second one was for working, for teaching Spanish. It was very interesting because I was teaching not high school, it was a private school, but it was adult education. So Japan is amazing, it's so beautiful. I encourage you to go, travel, see, and enjoy it. This side is a very close society. You can become Japanese, legally Japanese, legal resident, etc. But in my opinion, and this is for people that I have met who have stayed longer than me, you never become Japanese, which is okay. You're going to be exoticizing for the rest of your life. So at the beginning, it's interesting. Say, okay, they look at me as something interesting, exotic. Yeah, but for how long can I live with that? Because somehow, I mean, I don't want to criticize, but somehow they dehumanize you. That I don't feel like that here. So it's interesting to go and see, but it's like, some people stays, many people stays.
Because there's a couple of people I follow on social media. They're teachers, and there's like this lady. She's black, and she's always like wearing the braids and everything, full style. And she has done several videos where people just come to her and start judging her and start taking pictures like she's some type of statue or something. And her students also ask her, "How come you're black?"
And in a society that is so aware of social distance, I mean, you can be in the metro train and you can be touching each other because you are packed, but you are not in the other person's space. Even if you are touching because there's no space for it. This is so that happened to me. It happened. Some people also touch my hair, which is like, okay, what are you doing? But yeah, they exoticize everyone, which is okay at the beginning, but at some point you say, don't touch me. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, I understand. I then there are levels. There are levels of racism there, but everyone becomes racializing in different ways. Yeah, it's something that I don't know. Maybe in future generations they will change it, but it wasn't my experience. Yeah.
If you attended Japan, even though we just talked about some of the negatives, but you could say that you are interested in Asian studies.
Mm-hmm.
Did Japan influence that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because when I was in Japan before I start my master's and the PhD, and I mean the professor said, every professor said, since you have been in Japan, write about this. I mean, I didn't need that. I needed it. Which kind of experience can I bring here? I'm a Spaniard, I'm European, I'm an immigrant, but what makes me different? The travels, the places that I have seen. So at the beginning, I was working on 19th and 20th century travelers to Asia in general and Japan in particular. But then the PhD developed, and I ended working on a 17th century merchant who went to Japan and lived there. And it's interesting because you know that when we study 16th, 17th century travelers, Spaniards, we think about conquistadores. But that was the opposite in Asia. And this is what I like to study. I mean, in talking about my studies, and you will get bored. But Asia is the place where the Spanish Empire failed. And this is what I like. Philippines Philippines became a colony. So Philippines wasn't a phone. But the Spanish presence in Philippines was always contested by Filipino people, which are Pinoy now they call themselves Pinoy. native people and many Pinoy people from Chinese region. And so the different ethnicities there contested the Spanish domination, which is what I like.
So I, my cousin is half Peruvian, half Filipino.
Okay.
So when she was a partner, I mean her Filipino family,
Mhm.
and they all have Hispanic last names.
Yeah.
Berlin, and
Yes.
Marquez, yeah, it's very interesting.
And you know, one of the reasons, maybe I'm not analyzing because I don't know the specific case, but Philippines was a merchant environment, in special Manila. Now, with the Spanish Empire was dominating, if the if the merchants want to commerce with the Spanish Empire, they needed to become Christians. So they needed to adopt a Christian name or a Christian last name. So this is forced conversion. When I think I'm not going to assume here, but after 19th century, many people from Philippines adopted a Hispanic identity in order to react against the American domination. That is also true. Um, Now we say Pinoy, which is a way of reappropriating the identity, which is good. But the person who said we should call ourselves Filipinos was the hero of the Filipino resistance, Jose Rizal. So Filipino is a name given by the imperial man, but it's also a work of resistance against imperialist places. So yeah. I'm not going to assume
Oh, yeah,
that's
I
your
don't know.
case, but I'm talking about generalities.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I like history before I like literature,
Mhm.
but I have found in the last time that literature is, for me, I understand better the past if I study through literature, not through history. Because history tells you how things were. In literature, you see sometimes the voices of the people that say, no, it wasn't like that. So literature is a way of resisting history, in my opinion.
Certainly, say that as literature, like you said, is like the first-hand personal accounts of what actually happened, and usually history, as we all probably know, is written by the victors, so it's like changed, it's altered. So by seeing that, you can really see like different perspectives, and you can form your own like opinion. So, definitely interesting to take that.
And you take for example Guamampo Mariangela. Yeah, he is he's writing the resistance,
Mhm.
and we study through literature because he doesn't possess the main discourse, but he says no, it wasn't like that. It was like I'm saying because I saw it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we don't have the voices in first person from, for example, Malintzin. We call her Doña Marina la Malinche, but we have nothing without her because she was the teacher. So this is through literature. Yeah, this is, I mean, I'm thinking about, for example, Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal wrote one poem telling goodbye to Philippines the night before he was going to be executed as a traitor. Because when he died, there was technically still a Spanish Empire, and he was a traitor. Now he's the hero of the revolution, but he wrote a poem before he was killed, saying no, I'm Philip. What do you study?
I did history.
Yeah,
Like,
but in which which part, which expertise?
Yeah, so I like Latin American studies,
Mhm.
but she feels there's no concentration for a bachelor, but for a master's, I definitely think
And which part? I mean, which time
Oh.
period?
I know it's hard because it's so big, it's so wide, and it's also interesting. And I think I like either post-colonial or right at that colonial era.
Okay.
Mhm.
This is interesting because in Filipino studies, when you study post-colonial, many of the texts are become from India, which are resistance to the British. But actually, um, the Jose Rizal edited a text by one conquistador, Antonio de Morga. So there's an Antonio de Morga 17th century book edited by Jose Rizal with comments, with post-colonial comments. So Hispanic post-colonialism is earlier than post-colonialism studies in English. So, I mean, Guaman Po Yala word is resistance to colonialism. Yeah. What else? What's your expertise?
So me, it's computer science.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also appreciate history a lot. I've always like been interested in like for example, like both the colonial era and also like the age of the because I feel like that also played a role in colonialism directly because there were new like attitudes and new, I guess like a new belief about the world. So like people were more interested in like portraying themselves as the best, as the most powerful. So they wanted to prove that through colonialism. So for me, I also enjoy, even though I'm not like, you know, in that like area of expertise, I still very much like hearing studying history.
And the discourses that start to contest that idea of illustration and enlightenment that say, hey, who are you enlightening? Because you're letting many people out. And which part of why design?
Is it like something doable that I can enjoy? I took a graphic design elective on my senior year, and I like doing that, doing like the business cards, the tags and everything. And without any practice, I seem to be this and other, so I just decided I'll continue this then. And the Spanish one, since it doesn't make a lot of difference, I needed it anyway, I just decided to add it. Because I'm so undecisive. If I didn't have to do my Gen S, I would definitely add it like a minor on the side to just in case.
Yeah, at the end, design is art. And art is a way, art contains narratives.
That's something that I hate because all my professors are like graphic design is not art. Yeah, graphic design.
Which
What did
graphic
they say?
graphic design implies decisions.
It's still art. It's just that it has a more specific use to it. It's not just to like admire and analyze. Like you can use it for promotions and everything. But it's still a design at the end of the day. Yeah.
I think at least graphic design contains narratives, and these narratives tell who you are, what do you think, what do you feel. So I'm not going to discuss with other professors, but for me, graphic design is art.
I think it's a new form of art, a modern form of art. Exactly, it has more uses. And my roommate is also a graphic design major, and she thinks the same thing. Like our professor's been tripping that graphic design is art.
I mean, this is like saying, are graphic novels literature or not?
Yeah.
So it should be considered art because at the end of the day, even though it's not as like abstract, it's still something that people admire, even if it's briefly, and like it's a design. Like even like for example, right be like over there, like the logo, the center, that's in a way graphic design, even though it's a male and kid, but like people admire it because of like the meaning behind it. class, it should be like
Exactly. It has aesthetical components. When you choose one color and not the other one, you are arising one feeling and not the other one. If these colors were different, will we feel different? And this is the purpose of art, but I'm not going to discuss with other professors.
I was trying to see what I could do with my Spanish major because I know I'm not up for teaching. That's not for me. So I just trying to see what I can do with that.
Well, one thing is that, for example, working with the Hispanic aesthetics, which are different from other location aesthetics, the choice of the colors, the choice of the shapes, etc. You can focus on, for example, Latin American design. How do they interpret the world? How do they draw the world?
Yeah, I'm trying to do like at least get like at least 1 or 2 classes in history and everything to get a better background and stuff. And after graduation, trying to find like any nonprofit organization or something that relates to Hispanic or Latino stuff that I can work either in social media or like that as an actual graphic designer.
You know that is in terms of advertisement, Spain is one of the best countries in the world regarding advertisement. Yeah, in TV, for example, Spanish ads have been getting so many prizes, much more prizes than other places. Something that comes with the Hispanic imagination, I guess. Yeah, and we think about a non-profit organization. We think about serving Latino Hispanic people, but serving non-Latino Hispanic people is also a way of creating bridges. I read one article in New York Times this weekend of one woman, one irregular immigrant who came without papers. The boy, her child was taken from her, and she took. It was so difficult for her to get in the baby back because she couldn't find anyone who speak English to explain the situation. And it's because in a state that I'm not mentioning, nobody wanted to help her. And in Massachusetts, they couldn't find anyone who speak English so she could explain what was happening. I mean, in Massachusetts, you cannot find native speaking or bilingual people in Massachusetts. No. So, think is also your possibility to establish a bridge, not only for serving Hispanic Latino people, but for demonstrating any other one that you are here and your stories and your words and your language are important.
Position as you because I also don't want to be a professor. Well, right now it's not in my goals, but I do want to keep studying and literature. I want to keep studying history and yeah.
That's perfectly, I mean, that's great. I came back to grad school when I was 34. So I worked I worked for Starbucks because I couldn't speak English. I worked for a Japan External Trade Organization. I was teaching for a while, so it takes time. I mean, teaching is something that for me, if you start older, you have more life experience. I have I know people with PhDs who have went from college to grad school to work in universities, and you say, okay, you are great, you are so intelligent, you have written 4 books, but which life experience do you really have? Because college is, for example, Central. I see Central very in the world. I don't see Central in the ivory tower, but it still has some component of protect from the outside that you don't have. So
And even like if people who go from like bachelor to master's and then they go to teaching, sometimes they still feel like a student and they still get treated like a student.
Yeah, I mean, because they have never left the educational environment. You need to experience different things. It was my case and I'm happy. And I'm not telling you do it. But if you don't feel like become a teacher now, don't become a teacher. Become something else. Many things to. Many people to help out of teaching environments, which are, in my opinion, especially in high school, extremely protected. It doesn't happen in Spain. Students are not so overprotected from the outside world. The teachers tell them since the very beginning, this is going to happen. So, I mean, trying other things, of course. And if you feel you want to come back, come back. If you don't, important is being happy. And you can educate people, not being in educational environments.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nathan.
Thank you.
For sharing your story. I'll end the recording.